Now, from the front lines to street files, let's head back to LA, where one street artist doesn't just want to drop you a line, he wants to get to know you. Morley seeks to break through the endless drivel of vapid consumerist advertising, something that's no small feat in a place like Los Angeles. And yet he manages to do it, with a unique blend of honesty, satire, poetry, and, well, literally himself. Take a look. You have an incredibly unique style. With your messages, your image always accompanies them, which kind of, when I've seen them in person and online even, it feels more personal, like you're talking directly to me. Did you always start out by painting yourself as part of the image, or did that sort of evolve?
So originally I just had started with text, but as I sort of evolved as an artist, I realized I wanted people to sort of create a relationship with the words, not just create a relationship with them, in the way that they were like a, sort of anonymous or something like that. But I wanted it to feel like a friendship, like the way that you could create a relationship with a band that you love. You feel a connection with the musician that's playing or singing and the lyrics that they're singing. And so for me, I wanted there to be more of a human element rather than, just sort of a disembodied, sort of voice that was sort of speaking, and no one could necessarily know who they were. For me, it was like I looked at some of the great, street artists out there and I said, Banksy's great, but he's kind of like mythic. He's kind of like this invention that could be anything, and for me, I wanted my words to be something that came from something that wasn't mythic, something that was just a sort of dopey looking guy with glasses, someone that you could be friends with. And so that's why I started drawing in the drawing of me into each of my pieces.
Your art goes up in LA, which is, I lived there for 10 years, and it's a cacophony of ads and buy this, buy that, listen to this, shit like that. So it's an interesting concept, especially because a lot of your messages have to do, they're downright poetic, but a lot of them do set up that question like, is this really worse than an advertisement to buy some shit that you don't need? Talk a little bit about like the messages that you're conveying, whether they be political or poetic or social, or even just sort of these kind of funny little messages that you put out there.
Why I specifically wanted to create my art and put it or in the same level. Yeah, a lot of times these ads are really good at sort of shoving themselves into our faces and sort of like really kind of infecting our world, and so much that you can't really look anywhere without seeing somewhere a giant ad telling you that this will complete you, this will make your life perfect if you only own this or do that or watch this TV show or whatever. And so for me, I saw all of these, these visuals that were constantly, bombarding us, and I thought, why not try and create, even one small voice that can kind of offer something for free.
And in terms of placement, do you try to place specific messages in certain places, or do you just kind of go for whatever is available?
I always try to consider the environment. To me, the environment is at least 50% of the art, and the experience is walking by it and what kind of experience you're going to have with that, message in that environment. I would never put a poster, in Compton that I would put in Beverly Hills. I definitely try to create, my messages and sort of find a place where the environment can inform the message with some context.
And in terms of inspiration, again, going back to the concept that you have everything from, let's fall in love like our parents aren't divorced, to, things like, you're not going to get permission to change the world. Where do you get these messages from? Do you get inspiration from the places where you post them, or is it just sort of like what you read and what you pick up in your daily life that inspires these messages?
It's primarily my relationships with friends and family and loved ones, and then just sort of trying to keep an awareness of the kinds of things that people in the city that I live in and the places that I'm going to are dealing with. Any message that I'm putting out there is just as much for me as it is for anybody who might see it. And I think that to me it's important to kind of create that, to have that kind of relationship where, I'm not sort of just this kind of all-knowing person on high that has all the right answers. I'm just another person just trying to get through the day. And so I think that hopefully is one of the things that makes my work relatable to people.
Yeah, absolutely. That human connection that you'll never get from, an Armani ad or something. You're sharing your human experience through the art. I know that your work is also in galleries. How is that different than, seeing it, even for yourself as the artist, seeing it in a gallery versus on the street? And do you have it in any other cities as well?
Because I think the thing is that as opposed to asking an audience or the world to sort of come into your world and see, come into the gallery and see your work, you're really going into their world. And so for me, I was, the reason I even got interested in street art is because I got tired of inviting people and often getting no response to create, to come into my sort of environment and see what I'm trying to kind of create. And I thought, no, I think I want to just take my work to them, put it right in their faces and say, what do you think? Without actually having to even hear it necessarily what they think, So I think the other thing too is that, a lot of artists, street artists and so forth, their work can transition well into gallery type environments, but I don't know if mine necessarily can as much because, the sentiment of like, I promise you're not just a waitress. If a waitress coming off a tough day, and she's always, she came out to LA because she dreamed of being an actress or a dancer or a musician or something like that. But right now is kind of just for the last X amount of years, just been a waitress and starting to say, well, is that all that I am? Is that all that I can be? Her walking down the street and seeing that sentiment means one thing. Her walking into a gallery and seeing it, I think, means another. The street really, again, it adds a context that I think is really important to what I do. And I think that, not that there's no value in what I do in a gallery, but I think it just changes it. And so I find it to be less gratifying than seeing my stuff on the street. It was a kind of an important moment to me when I created a piece that had that was the waitress piece and put it in a gallery and realizing like most waitresses couldn't afford this. And so, it was important to me to never completely lose the element of being able to offer something completely for free, that sentiment and being able to give that to the people that need it.
For more information on Morley and his work, check out iamorley.squarespace.com. Finally this week, it's been a while since we got cozy. Probably slipped my mind because it's fucking summer in the South. And hot as fuck, as you can probably tell. But this week's find is the perfect thing to read whilst curling up in a dark corner away from the prying eyes of the U.S. empire. The WikiLeaks file uses, WikiLeaks files to utterly destroy the oft-promoted concept that the U.S. is a force for good in the world. The files pull from millions of top-secret State Department cables, part of the November 2010 WikiLeaks release, the largest release of government documents in history. Through this inside perspective, the book outlines how the U.S. empire actually functions, from military and economic interventions to covert actions and the outright violation of national sovereignty and human rights. USA, USA. Needless to say, our government doesn't want you reading this book, which is why I've already bought my copy, and so should you. As Pop Matters wrote in their review of the book, this is a dangerous book. It is also one whose importance and usefulness is hard to overstate. So go ahead, get cozy and get dangerous.